years in Florida, and he always had a gun.
Would that be your father?
My father-in-law, it's her stepdad, I'm sorry. Yeah, that was confusing right there. And I didn't know why our marriage worked so well, but brother and sister.
Is that the influence for the movie?
A little bit, you can see, a bit of that infrared, well done. So he always had a gun on him and shit, and when Harley was born and Byron Gale started living with us, that's Jen's parents, Jen was just like, you can't have a gun in this house. And Byron's like, she's an infant, man. Keep the gun in a box on the shelf, it won't matter for years. And Jen was like, no guns in the house. I wouldn't say she's anti-gun, but like she made us go to the Million Mom March at one point in Washington, D.C. years ago when Harley was like 1 year old to, you know, protest, not so much owning guns, but fucking the massive, you know, automatic weapons and how easy they were to get their hands on and shit like that. So she, again, not anti-gun, but very pro-gun control and shit. So in this movie, she was like, can I be in it? And I was like, okay, but the only part you can play is an extreme religious fundamentalist, you know, who works guns. And my wife hates religion and hates guns and shit. So for her, it was like a real acting challenge, I thought, you know. So, you know, I told her we're about to shoot. There's a sequence where she's fucking firing guns and shit. When the Holy War breaks out, she's one of the people firing guns in the government. So she had to fire a gun on camera, and she fired her handgun in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. This was automatic weaponry. So I was like, you gotta go train, you gotta go fucking put a gun in your hands, do some test shooting and stuff with this old Scotty Props, the head of the props department, and did the armaments as well. So they go, okay. I was like, go practice with him, I'm gonna go finish shooting this scene with Melissa Leo, and then we'll meet together for lunch, and then blah, 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 talk about you shooting the gun, figure out how we're gonna frame it and whatnot. She's like, okay. So I go off, do my thing, she goes off to do her thing, I come back to have lunch with her, she don't come back. She hasn't fucking returned. All lunch happens, she still don't fucking come back and whatnot. I go off to shoot another scene, I come back to the bus, she still hasn't fucking gotten back. And so I'm waiting for a lighting setup, and I'm posting or tweeting or something like that. Bus door opens and Jen comes in and stuff. Walking through the bus, like they got that fucking kind of like just fucked walk to her, you know, just zombie fucked, I guess, kind of like this. And she came in and a cigarette in her hands, leaning in the doorway of the bus, and I was like, where were you? And she was like, I was shooting guns. I was like, you like it? She's like, oh, too much. I was like, why? She's like, it's like a vibrator that shoots bullets. So it's cool, like, you know, it afforded us to do cool things, like kind of pop my wife in there and see her firing guns and shit like that. You know, give you a chance to do kind of things you don't normally kind of get to do, and the thing I normally never get to do is make a movie like that. You know, nobody's sitting around going like, I wonder if Han Solo got a blowjob. People are firing guns and shit. They're like, stop the pop culture references. People are dying, you know. So it's kind of cool for me. I don't normally make that flick, and I love watching it. I watched it every stop at the tour, man. I would just sit there fucking eating popcorn and eating that movie up. And then afterwards, I love doing the Q&A. I love talking about it. That's the special effect I could bring to a movie. You know, like Michael Bay, his special effect as a filmmaker is he can make you fucking believe two giant cars are fucking or beating each other up or something like that. And it makes it look believable. Martin Scorsese, you know, can just drop you into a world of gangsters believable. Any world he could drop you into. He's a master storyteller. Quentin Tarantino does the cinema of cool. You know, nobody can kind of do what Quentin does. My only directorial superpower is I'm the only director I know that when the movie's over, I come out and I'm like, wait, let me explain what happened. I got in a fight with Bruce Willis and they kicked my fat ass off a plane, you know, and suddenly the movie's not quite over, you know what I'm saying? Like, and that's something that Harvey Weinstein told me when I was younger, when we first got picked up by Miramax, when they picked up Clerks. Dude gave some sage-like advice. He was just like, the movie doesn't begin and end when the lights go down and come up in the theater. He goes, if you're really good at your job, the movie begins long before they even come to the movie theater. And if you're a magician at your job, the movie lasts long after they fucking leave. And that always stuck with me, because it was like, that's a second bite at the apple. You know, when you're a storyteller, filmmaker, whatever you do, you get one shot. You never get a second chance to make a first impression. And I hated that shit. Like, I hated that shampoo commercial, and I hated that thought in general. Like, really? Like, you can't correct or maybe add to or you know, kind of modify if maybe your first impression wasn't the tightest. And I realized that you could make a second impression while I was making flicks, because we'd show the movie, and then after the movie I'd get up and Q&A. And you would always hear from people. It happened in Houston, at the Houston World Fest in '94. Man, these two fuckers didn't hear I didn't know me and Mosier had overheard him, but me and Mosier, got up after a Clerk screening, did a Q&A, and we were witty and fun and shit. And as people were leaving, these two dudes were talking. This one dude goes to another dude, he's like, "You like the movie?" And the other guy goes, "No, but those guys were funny." And I wasn't hurt by, like, he didn't like the movie. I was like, we got him with the talk. Like, we didn't get him with the movie, but we got him with the talk. Man, it's a second bite. And if they had left without the talk, they would have been like, fuck that movie. But they left after the talk. They saw the movie, then heard the talk, and they were like, well, fuck the movie, but I like those guys. And that, for me, was important. I was just like, I always want that second bite at the apple, and that's what I've been developing for years, get up talking after the movie and shit like that. So, for me, it's you use what you got. I'm not a visual stylist. I mean, this movie looks good, and God bless Dave Klein shot it. The same motherfucker shot Clerk, shot that, I mean, that's huge growth for a dude that I've known forever. But it is. I'm sorry, I go on about Red State. I enjoy it a lot. Anyway, what's your question?
I wrote a book. It was called Silent Bob Speaks. It was a collection of all of your articles, or some of your articles. And in one of the articles, you said something about if you notice that I'm eating or if I'm gaining weight, to let me know.
Yes.
Well, I just want to say that I have nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with someone who likes to eat a little bit.
Yeah.
But we want you around, man. So just take care of yourself. We just want you to take care of yourself.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Because
I appreciate that.
Whether you're stopping making films or whether you're making smodcasts or whatever, I want you to keep going on for as long as you possibly can.
Me too, as well. Recently, I took off 70 pounds. I have very weird feelings about people applauding that because I'm like, because it's to me, the comment I hear is like, congratulations, you're no longer a fat piece of shit, So, it's nice. People are like, you're going to live longer, but as a fat, I've grown up fat my whole life, so I'm just programmed to hear like, boo, boo. So when I hear people clapping for me losing weight, that's me hearing booing for gaining weight, which I know that I'll eventually do. I know me. Like, I took off 70 pounds and shit like that. And I knew that it wouldn't last forever. I knew, like, oh man, this is going to be me till the day I die. I'm stupid. I'll start fucking eating again. And then one day I'll be like, what happened? But thank you, I did. I wrote it in the book. I encourage people all the time, whenever you see me and shit, if I'm looking fatter or something like that, fatter than normal, because people are like, how do we know what fat is, Kev? They're like, you're fat now. I'm like, yes, but start here. If I don't look like this, then come over and be like, hey, stop eating.
One last quick thing.
Yeah.
Your Slackers was my Clerks.
Oh, right on. The Slacker, though, with no S, just
Slacker.
singular.
So I'm an aspiring filmmaker right now, and I've got a feature film that I'm working on, and I've been passing out buttons to promote it. And
Okay.
I'd love to give you one right now, so you can check out the website.
Can you grab it?
Yeah.
We'll grab it right here, but totally, absolutely. I'll put it on my shoe.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Wait, are you a tall guardian?
No, I'm standing on the trash cans.
That's cool. I didn't see the trash cans, man.
Yeah.
Right on. I dig it.
Thank you. I don't know if you remember me, but last year in
How could I forget you?
So my question, well, first of all, I'd like to say that I think you moving into podcasts is great because we all win. We get hours of Kevin Smith genius weekly rather than every couple years.
And nobody has to sit through another cop-out.
But you made some characters that I think, if you're not going to do films again, can live on through other media. Would you consider doing like a Mercury Radio type theater?
Oh yeah.
With Dante and Randall? Because I love the flying car.
In a heartbeat. We've already been talking about it on Twitter. If you're ever in at my shit or remotely like my shit, hang out on my Twitter feed or listen to the podcast. We spill details all the fucking time. One of the things we've been talking about is doing radio plays. We own a radio station now that we broadcast out of the house, and I was just like, I guess we could do radio plays. And one of the first ones I wanted to do was, I was going to make this movie called Ranger Danger a couple of years ago. So there's half a script done. So I was like, ooh, we could dramatize that, kind of like do a radio play. The other thing I desperately want to do, I don't know if I could do it. I mean, I don't own my characters. I don't own Clerks, Mallrats, Chasing Amy, none of that shit. Other people own it. I own Jay and Silent Bob. But doing a radio play with Jay and Silent Bob sucks because only one guy talks. So I want to do it with other characters, and I dream about doing one, like just a 1 hour sequel of sorts to Chasing Amy, where you just sit down and listen to like a conversation in a coffee shop between Holden and Alyssa. And you know, back in the day, I would have been like, okay, I got to get a camera and shoot it. But now with Sir, with Smodcast Internet Radio, I'd be like, all right, let me just get those cats over to the house, give them some pages, and fucking do a little radio play. So we're still settling in. We've only been doing Sir for about 2.5 months now, going on 3. And August 9th, it'll be 3 months. Once everything's kind of settled post-con, and also this TV thing we're working on, once that's kind of put to bed, there's going to be more time to kind of sit back and do the fun programming we've been talking about. Because right now we do about 6-7 hours of original programming a day on Smodcast, at smodcast.com, on Sir, the Smodcast Internet Radio. And then the rest of it is just catalog podcasts from the past. So now we want to add even more content to it. And doing the radio plays, which I would love to do like once a week. When I was a kid, we used to gather around the television, and we only had a few fucking channels, like 3 channels, for like ABC Sunday Night at the Movies and shit like that. And you know, I got a dopey little dream about us doing a fucking weekly radio play that people would sit there and tune in for. Maybe we can give away rings, you know, fucking decoder rings and shit like that, like in Christmas Story, yeah, or those rings as well, the mighty ring of the Green Wilder.
Okay, well, thank you very much, and I hope one day you deem me worthy enough to join you on stage.
Right on, man. I deem you right now. That's pretty clever. No, go sit down. Dude, you look like the first dude. Are you the doctor?
No, I'm Aunt Haitian's butthole.
Let's all go inside.
My question is, with all, like he was saying, how other forms of media, have you ever thought about doing any webisodes or maybe some cute little cartoons?
Yeah, we do cute little cartoons now. I don't do them myself. We do the audio part. There's this genius dude out in Vancouver named Steve Stark, Canadian motherfucker who does animation. Hell of a fucking dude. He did this. I took a piece of one of the podcasts me and Mosier had spoken on about Gretzky, turned it into this cartoon. And, you know, everyone does it now. Like Nerdist, somebody took one of the Nerdist cartoons, the podcast, turned that into a cartoon. You've seen it happen because the podcasts are wonderful tracks for animators. It's just an audio bed. And generally speaking, you take flights that fancy the podcast, so that gives animators places to go. It's been a really nice kind of combination between podcasters and indie animators going on the web lately. So the first time me and Mosier saw it, we just fucking about died. We're like, oh my God, we're cartoon characters. And we started sniffing around and see if we could take it to TV, because that was the old way of thinking. Let's go out to somebody else with our hand out and fucking ask for money, and they'll give us money, and hooray. And that's the way, you know, he always did things. And then Mosier was just like, you know what, dude, this is going to be a pain in the ass sell, because he talked to somebody at like an animation company that was, you know, had TV access. And we were trying to explain to him, like, this dude took this little piece of Smodcast and turned it into this cartoon, so we'd like to do a whole bunch of these, man. People take these little audio clips and turn them into different cartoons and whatnot. And one of the examples we showed him was we'd been talking about Aquaman, in his episode called Aquatic Justice. And Steve Stark took it and did this brilliant Aquaman animation. Me and Scott Mosier yelling at Aquaman about what a terrible underwater cop he is and shit like that. And you know, how he didn't do anything about a shark biting my leg or something. It's really, really funny. So we submitted that, and the company was just like, well, can Aquaman be a regular character in the show? And I was like, I don't own Aquaman. You know, it's like he's a little one-off in a conversational bit we had. They were looking for more consistency, and I was looking for haphazard, kind of like, whatever it talks about, that's what it is. There is no through line, no main characters except me and Scott or something like that. Little cartoon versions of us talking about the shit. So Mosier was just like, do you want to do this anymore? Do you want to like go down and talk to people who just don't quite get it and stuff? Or what do you want? Do you want to see a cartoon of you every month? And I was like, yeah, that's what I want. He's like, well, let's just do it ourselves. I was like, you're absolutely right, and that's kind of where we've been for a while now. The indie ethic has returned after like 10 years or more of, you know, always turning around to somebody and being like, give us money to do shit. Now it's kind of like, well, the less we do that, the more we rely on ourselves, the better it is. You give up a little bit because you're not going to have the widest possible access that you would with somebody else, marketing it, putting it into theaters, doing all the work for you. But it's way more fucking gratifying because you can do exactly what you want to do. You never have to take notes, you never have to change something or dumb it down or even smarten it up, God forbid. You can make it exactly what it needs to be. And it's a trade-off, like anything in life. It's like if you're willing to let go of that